The human ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Captain Hyun-woo Park stood on the bridge, watching the massive alien station grow larger on the screen. The Galactic Council's home base was bigger than any human city. It sparkled with millions of lights like a jewel floating among the stars. "How long until we dock?" Hyun-woo asked his pilot. 20 minutes, sir," came the reply. Hyun-woo turned to look at the woman standing next to him. Ambassador Soo-jin Lee wore her best diplomatic uniform. She had spent months preparing for this meeting. Her hands were steady, but Hyun-woo could see the worry in her eyes. "Are you ready?" he asked her. Soo-jin nodded. "I have to be. This might be humanity's last chance for peace." Colonel Dong-hyun Kim walked over to join them. He was a tall man with scars on his face from the colony wars. "The aliens won't listen," he said. "They think we're just primitive animals." "Maybe," Soo-jin said. "But we have to try." The ship shook slightly as it docked with the alien station. Hyun-woo had been in space for 15 years, but this place still amazed him. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal. The air tasted different here, processed by alien machines. Strange creatures walked through the corridors, some floating, others crawling on multiple legs. A tall, thin alien approached them. It looked like it was made of blue glass with light flowing through its body like water. This was Veltharion, the council speaker. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music, but cold music. "Welcome, humans," Veltharion said. "Follow me to the council chamber." They walked through corridors that twisted and turned in impossible ways. The walls showed pictures of alien worlds and strange creatures. Hyun-woo tried to count how many different species he saw, but gave up after 20. The council chamber was enormous. 12 different aliens sat on high platforms looking down at the humans like judges. Each one represented a different species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Hyun-woo couldn't tell which end was their head. One alien looked like a giant insect with metal parts grafted onto its body. This was Mordak from the Warcast species. Its eyes glowed red as it stared at the humans. "You may speak," Veltharion announced. Soo-jin stepped forward. She had practiced this speech 100 times. "Honored council members, humanity comes to you in friendship. We seek peaceful coexistence among the stars. We offer trade, knowledge, and cooperation." She held up a datapad. "I have detailed proposals for mutual benefit. Our scientists have made discoveries that could help all species. Our colonies have resources that we're willing to share. All we ask is the right to exist alongside you in this galaxy." The council members looked at each other. Some made sounds that might have been laughter. Veltharion's light pulsed in what Hyun-woo guessed was amusement. "Humans," Veltharion said, "you misunderstand your situation. We did not invite you here to negotiate. We summoned you to deliver an ultimatum." The chamber fell silent. Soo-jin's face went pale, but she kept standing straight. "For 3,000 years, we have maintained peace in this galaxy," Veltharion continued. 12 species working in harmony. No wars, no conflicts. Perfect order. Mordak leaned forward, his metal claws clicking on his platform. "Then you arrived. You spread through space like a disease. You fight each other. You destroy your own worlds. You bring chaos wherever you go." "That's not true," Soo-jin protested. "Yes, humanity has problems, but we're learning. We're growing. We can contribute to galactic society." Another council member, this one covered in scales and tentacles, spoke up. "Your species is too young, too violent. You threaten everything we have built." Veltharion raised one crystalline hand for silence. "Therefore, the council has decided. You will withdraw all human presence beyond your home solar system. Every colony, every research station, every ship must return to Earth within 72 standard hours." Hyun-woo felt his anger rising. "You can't be serious. We have millions of people living on those worlds. Families, children, entire communities. They've been there for generations." "That is not our concern," Veltharion said coldly. "You should have thought of that before expanding without permission." Soo-jin tried again. "Please, let's discuss this reasonably. There must be a solution that works for everyone. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us." Mordak made a sound like grinding metal, which Hyun-woo realized was laughter. "You think you can threaten us? Your primitive weapons and crude ships are no match for our technology. We have weapons that can crack planets, fleets that darken the space between stars." "We're not threatening anyone," Colonel Dong-hyun said, speaking for the first time. "But we won't abandon our people either." "Then you will all die together," Mordak replied. Veltharion's light grew brighter. 72 hours. That is generous. Some council members wanted to give you no time at all. Sujin looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. And if we refuse? Then we will remove you by force, Veltharion said. Your species will be relocated to a reservation world where you can live out your brief lives without troubling civilized society. The silence stretched on. Finally, Sujin spoke again. We need time to consider your terms. There are no terms to consider, Veltharion said. Only obedience or extinction. Hyunwoo stepped forward. You're making a mistake. Humanity isn't as weak as you think. Several council members made sounds of amusement. Mordak clicked his claws together. Your entire military could not defeat a single one of our battle fleets. Do not embarrass yourself with empty boasts. It's not a boast, Hyunwoo said quietly. It's a warning. Sujin touched his arm, signaling him to stay calm. She looked up at the council one more time. We hoped to find friends among the stars. Instead, we found tyrants who call slavery peace. Careful, human, Veltharion warned. Your words border on insult. Sujin smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. In 72 hours, you'll understand what humanity thinks of your ultimatum. She turned and walked toward the exit. Hyunwoo and Donghyun followed her. Behind them, the council members made various sounds of mockery and dismissal. As they walked back to their ship, Donghyun whispered, That went better than expected. How do you figure? Hyunwoo asked. They think we're helpless, Sujin said. That's exactly what we wanted them to think. Back on their ship, Sujin activated a secure communication channel. Control, this is Diplomat 1. The council rejected all proposals. They want total withdrawal in 72 hours. A voice crackled back from Earth. Copy that, Diplomat 1. Broken chain protocol is authorized. All units prepare for war. Sujin looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's real strength was waking up. The council thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. The war for freedom was about to begin. President Mi-young Choi sat at the head of a long table in the emergency bunker, deep under Geneva. The room was filled with the most important people in human space. Everyone looked tense. They all knew what was coming. Report, Mi-young said simply. Defense Minister Jae Sung-yoon activated a holographic display. Red dots appeared all over the galaxy, showing human colonies and outposts. We have 47 major colonies, over 200 research stations, and countless mining operations. Total population 38 million people. Fleet Admiral Kyung Ho-baek stood up. He was an old man with gray hair and steady eyes. The visible fleet consists of 1,200 ships. Against the Council's full military might, we'd last maybe 6 hours. What about evacuation? Asked Intelligence Director Yoon-ji Nam. Impossible, Jae-sung replied. We don't have enough transport ships to move everyone in 72 hours. Even if we did, where would they go? Earth can't support that many refugees, Mi-young nodded. She had expected this answer. Then we fight. A new voice spoke from the back of the room. Actually, we might have a chance. Everyone turned to look at Dr. Seung Min Han. He was a thin man with wild hair and clothes that never seemed to fit right. Most people thought he was crazy. Mi-young knew better. He was the smartest person she had ever met. Show them, Mi-young said. Dr. Seung Min activated another display. This time the image showed a strange, twisted piece of metal. It looked like it had been melted and reformed by impossible forces. 15 years ago we found this in the Kuiper Belt, Dr. Seung Min said. A derelict ship older than any known civilization. The technology inside doesn't follow normal physics. It bends reality itself. Admiral Kyung-ho frowned. I remember that discovery. The science team said it was too dangerous to study. We studied it anyway, Dr. Seung Min said with a smile. In secret. The Prometheus project has been reverse engineering this technology for over a decade. He pressed a button, and new images appeared. They showed weapons that hurt to look at, ships with impossible shapes, and devices that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. While the Council perfected their energy weapons and force shields, we learned to break the rules, Dr. Seung Min continued. Their technology is elegant and predictable. Ours is chaotic and impossible. Jae-sung leaned forward. What exactly can these weapons do? Better to show you, Dr. Seung Min said. He activated a video feed from a test facility on the moon. On screen, a decommissioned human battleship sat in space. It looked old but solid. A small device, no bigger than a football, appeared next to the ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship simply wasn't there anymore. Not destroyed, not vaporized, just gone as if it had never existed. The room fell silent. Reality bomb, Dr. Shungmin explained. It creates a bubble where the laws of physics stop working normally. Inside that bubble, matter forgets how to exist. Mi Young stood up. How many of these do we have? Thousands. Hidden all over human space. The Council will never see them coming. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, evacuation orders were going out. But they weren't normal evacuation orders. They were coded messages that only certain people understood. Captain Boram. Yang received her message while loading supplies on the mining colony of Kepler 438c. She was a small woman with quick hands and quicker thoughts. When she read the code, she knew what it meant. "Attention all personnel," she announced over the colony's communication system. "We have a scheduled supply run to Earth. All non-essential personnel should prepare for departure." Most of the colonists understood. They had been waiting for this day. They packed quickly, taking only what they could carry. But some stayed behind. They were volunteers who knew they might not survive what was coming. Commander Tae-ho Lim got his message at the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri. He was studying new forms of energy when the coded transmission came through. He looked around his laboratory, at all the equipment and discoveries he would have to leave behind. "Computer, begin data transfer protocol 7, he said. "Copy everything to Earth." "That will take 48 hours, the computer replied. "Then we'd better get started." Taeho's team worked frantically to save their research. They knew it might be important for the war that was coming, but they also knew some of them would stay behind to operate the hidden weapon systems. On Earth, Admiral Kyung-ho was activating something called the Broken Chain Protocol. In secret facilities all over human space, automated systems came online. Ships that had been sleeping in dark space for years began powering up their engines. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields started their startup sequences. The Council thought they knew about human military strength. They had observed the visible fleet, counted the official military bases, and estimated human capabilities. They were very wrong. For 20 years, ever since first contact with alien races, humanity had been preparing for this possibility. They had built 2 fleets, one that everyone could see and one that stayed hidden. Captain Gildong-sun commanded one of the hidden ships. The stealth destroyer called Shadowbane had been waiting in dark space beyond Jupiter for 3 years. Its crew had lived in silence, practicing for the day they might be needed. "All crew, this is the captain," Gildong announced over the ship's intercom. "We just received the go signal. Operation Broken Chain is now active." His crew cheered. They had been waiting so long to fight back against the aliens who looked down on humanity. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew they had advantages the Council couldn't imagine. The ship's engineer, a young woman named Haiwan Park, ran final checks on their reality warping systems. "All systems green, Captain. We can bend space-time on your command." Meanwhile, Intelligence Director Yoonji was coordinating with deep cover agents throughout Council space. These agents had been placed decades ago, posing as traders, researchers, and refugees. Now it was time for them to reveal themselves. Agent So-Min Lee worked as a maintenance technician on a Council military base. For 5 years, she had been quietly mapping their defense systems and planting devices that could take control of their computers. When she received her activation code, she smiled. Agent Woo Jin Kang ran a small trading post near the Council's capital world. His customers thought he was just a friendly human merchant. They didn't know he was actually gathering intelligence on Council military movements and political weaknesses. Back on Earth, Dr. Shung-min was making final preparations. His reality-warping weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They could create black holes, bend time, and make solid matter phase in and out of existence. "The beautiful thing about impossible technology," he told his team, "is that it's impossible to defend against." President Mi Young received updates from all over human space. The evacuation was proceeding as planned. Most civilians would reach safety. The military forces were in position. The hidden weapons were ready. "How long until the Council fleet arrives?" she asked. 68 hours, Admiral Kyung-ho replied. Mi Young nodded. "Then we use every minute we have left. Send a message to all colonies. Anyone who wants to leave can leave. Anyone who wants to fight can stay." "What about surrender?" asked one of her advisors. "Maybe we could negotiate better terms." Mi Young's expression hardened. The Council doesn't want to negotiate. They want to put humanity in a cage. Well, they're about to learn something about caged animals. She stood up and looked around the room at all the faces staring back at her. These people represented the hopes and dreams of 38 million humans scattered across the galaxy. "We didn't ask for this war," she said, "but we're going to finish it." The Council thinks we're primitive and weak. Let them keep thinking that for 68 more hours. Outside, stars began moving as hidden human fleets emerged from dark space. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. In a few days, 3,000 years of enforced peace would be shattered forever. The storm was gathering and humanity was ready to unleash it. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system like a moving city. 200 ships of 12 different species, each one bigger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Fleet Marshal Xanthara commanded from the massive dreadnought, called Eternal Harmony. She was an aquatic being, breathing water in her command tank, confident that this would be an easy victory. "All ships report ready," her communications officer announced. No sign of human resistance. Xanthara found this strange. Her scouts had detected the human evacuation ships fleeing deeper into their system, but no military vessels had come out to meet them. Either the humans were cowards or they were planning something. "Begin long-range scans," she ordered. "I want to know the location of every human ship." But the scans weren't working properly. The sensor readings kept changing, showing impossible results. Space itself seemed unstable in this system, as if reality was slightly broken. "Marshal," called her sensor technician, "I'm getting conflicting data. The gravitational fields don't make sense. It's like there are invisible masses scattered throughout the system." Xanthara frowned inside her water tank. "Run a full diagnostic on all sensors." While the Council fleet tried to understand what was wrong with their equipment, Captain Gildong's son watched them from dark space. His stealth destroyer Shadowbane was invisible to their sensors, hidden by technology that bent light and radiation around his ship. "Target acquired," his weapons officer reported. 12 Council ships in perfect formation. Gildong smiled. The aliens' greatest strength was their coordination. They moved like dancers, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. It made them efficient and predictable. It also made them easy to target. "Fire reality bomb," Gildong ordered. A small device invisible to Council sensors materialized in the center of their formation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space hiccuped. 12 Council ships simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed by explosions or energy beams. They were there 1 second, then gone the next, as if they had never been built. The crews didn't even have time to scream. Panic spread through the Council fleet. Their formations broke apart as ship captains tried to understand what had just happened. Their sensors showed nothing, no energy discharge, no debris, no explanation. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Xanthara commanded. "But how do you evade an enemy you can't see using weapons you don't understand?" Another reality bomb activated near the fleet's right wing. 8 more ships vanished from existence. Then another bomb took out the rear guard. The Council's perfect formation was falling apart. From behind Jupiter's moon Europa, Admiral Inho Kang emerged with the visible human fleet. 50 ships against nearly 200, but these ships were different from what the Council expected. They moved in chaotic patterns like leaves in a storm, impossible to predict or target. "All human vessels, engage at will," Inho commanded. The humans opened fire with weapons the Council had never seen before. Gravity bombs that created tiny black holes, sucking Council ships into points of infinite density. Quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple dimensions, passing through shields as if they weren't there. Swarm drones that could phase in and out of solid matter. The battle turned into chaos. Council ships fired their elegant energy weapons, beams of pure light that could slice through mountains. But the human ships seemed to ignore physics. They moved in impossible directions, appeared in 2 places at once, and somehow their armor was made of materials that didn't always exist in normal space. Captain He Jin co-commanded the human cruiser called Storm Rider. Her ship was hit by 3 Council plasma beams that should have vaporized it. Instead, the energy passed through her hull like it was made of air. "Phase shift holding steady," her engineer reported. "We're only half in this dimension." Hyejin targeted a Council destroyer with her quantum cannons. The torpedoes didn't just hit the enemy ship, they hit every possible version of the ship across multiple realities. The destroyer was destroyed in 1,000 different ways at once. Fleet Marshal Xanthara watched her perfect fleet fall apart. In 6 hours of fighting, she had lost over half her ships. The humans, who should have been helpless primitives, were using technology that violated everything she knew about the universe. "How are they doing this?" she demanded of her science officer. "I don't know, Marshal. Their weapons seem to change the laws of physics locally. Our shields and armor are designed to stop energy and matter, but these attacks are something else entirely." A new human weapon appeared on Zenthara's sensors. It looked like a massive flower made of dark energy, blooming in space near her dreadnought. When the petals opened, gravity went insane. 3 of her escort ships were crushed into balls of twisted metal, while her own vessel was pulled toward the anomaly. "Emergency power to engines," she screamed. "Get us away from that thing." The Eternal Harmony barely escaped, its hull cracked and leaking atmosphere. Around her, the survivors of the Council fleet were retreating in disorder. This was supposed to be a simple police action against primitive rebels. Instead, it had become a nightmare. Captain Gildong's stealth destroyer continued to hunt from the shadows. His reality bombs were the most feared weapons in the battle. Council ships would be flying normally one moment, then simply stop existing the next. "No warning, no defense, no escape." "Captain," his communications officer called, "we're receiving a surrender signal from one of the Council frigates." Gildong considered this. The rules of war said he should accept surrender, but these aliens had come to destroy humanity's colonies and put his people in cages. "Tell them to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded," he decided. "Anyone who tries to run gets erased." The Council frigate complied, its crew too terrified to fight anymore. When human Marines phased through the ship's hull to take control, the alien crew just stared in shock. They had never seen technology that allowed people to walk through solid walls. As the battle wound down, Admiral Inho surveyed the wreckage. The space around Jupiter was filled with twisted metal and strange energy fields. Some Council ships had been destroyed normally, but others had simply vanished or been transformed into impossible shapes. "Status report," he requested. "We lost 18 ships," his tactical officer reported. "The Council lost 137. The survivors are retreating toward the outer system." Inho nodded. It was a victory, but he knew this was just the beginning. The Council would be back with everything they had. And next time, they wouldn't underestimate humanity. On Earth, President Mi Young received the battle report with mixed feelings. They had won the first engagement, but at a terrible cost. The reality-warping weapons were damaging space itself. Some areas around Jupiter would be unstable for years. "How many more reality bombs do we have?" she asked Dr. Xiongmin. "Thousands," he replied. "But each one we use makes the universe a little more fragile. If we use too many, we might break something that can't be fixed." Mi Young understood. Humanity's greatest weapons came with a terrible price, but the Council had left them no choice. "Prepare the next phase," she ordered. "If they want to see what humanity can really do, we'll show them." In space around Jupiter, the wreckage of the Council fleet drifted in the solar wind. Some pieces were normal metal and plastic. Others existed in multiple dimensions or had been turned inside out by impossible physics. The Council had learned their first lesson about humanity. They didn't fight fair, and they didn't fight by rules that anyone else could understand. The galaxy's 3,000-year peace was starting to crack, and humanity was just getting started. The survivors of the Council fleet limped back toward their home systems, carrying word of humanity's impossible weapons. Soon, every species in the galaxy would know that the humans were not the primitive animals they appeared to be. They were something much more dangerous. They were beings who could break reality itself and use the pieces as weapons. The war was no longer about forcing humanity back to Earth. Now it was about survival. Warcast Mordak slammed his metal claws on the Council table. The insect-like alien's red eyes glowed with rage as he stared at the other Council members. "Enough," he screamed. "These humans have humiliated us for the last time. I call for total war." The Council chamber was in chaos. Half the members wanted to negotiate with humanity, while others demanded complete destruction of the human species. The crystalline Veltharian tried to maintain order, but even his musical voice couldn't calm the panic. "The humans have weapons we don't understand," said an Aquatic Council member. "Perhaps we should try to make peace." Mordak turned his burning gaze on the speaker. "Peace? They erased a third of our fleet from existence. They broke the laws of physics themselves. There can be no peace with such monsters. Then what do you suggest?" Veltharian asked. Mordak activated a holographic display. It showed a massive weapon, dark and twisted, covered in warning symbols. "The planet crackers. Weapons we swore never to use again after the devastation wars 2,000 years ago. The chamber fell silent. Every council member knew about the planet crackers. They were weapons so powerful they could split worlds in half, turn entire star systems into burning clouds of plasma. They had been banned for good reason. "You're talking about genocide," whispered an ethereal representative, its ghostly form flickering with distress. "The complete destruction of their species." "Yes," Mordak said simply. "If we can't control them, we destroy them. All of them." The vote was close, but fear won over conscience. The council authorized the use of planet crackers against all human-controlled systems. Humanity would have one final chance to surrender completely, or they would be erased from the galaxy. But humanity had expected this. Intelligence Director Yoonji Nam sat in her office on Earth, reading reports from deep-cover agents throughout council space. Her network of spies had taken decades to build, and now they were humanity's eyes and ears in enemy territory. "Ma'am," her assistant said, "we have confirmation." "The council has authorized planet crackers," Yoonji nodded. She had seen this coming. "Activate Phase 2. All sleeper agents go active immediately." Across the galaxy, humans who had lived normal lives for years suddenly revealed their true purpose. Agent HFY Park had worked as a systems analyst on HFY, the council's capital world, for 8 years. Her neighbors thought she was just another human refugee seeking a better life. They didn't know she was Captain HFY Park's sister, trained in psychological warfare and deep infiltration. When she received her activation code, she smiled and opened a secret compartment in her apartment. Inside were devices that would make the council's homeworld uninhabitable. "Time to go to work," she whispered to herself. Meanwhile, sleeper ships began emerging from hiding places throughout council space. These weren't the visible human fleet that the aliens knew about. These were ghost ships hidden for decades in empty space waiting for this moment. Captain Min Ho Jung commanded one such vessel. The stealth cruiser called Shadow Walker had been drifting in the void between stars for 12 years, its crew in suspended animation. When the activation signal came, they woke to war. "All systems online," his engineer reported. "Quantum drive ready, reality bombs armed." Minho looked at the star chart showing council territory. Red dots marked military bases, supply depots, and communication stations. His mission was simple: make the council's perfect organization fall apart. "Set course for the Nexus station," he ordered. "Time to cut off their communications." The council's military might depended on perfect coordination between 12 different species. Their commanders could instantly communicate across thousands of light years, directing fleets with precision that no single species could match. But that same system was also their weakness. Commander Yejin Cho led a team of human hackers aboard the stealth ship called Data Storm. For 15 years they had studied council technology, learning every detail of their quantum communication networks. Dr. Ji-Hoon Seo, the team's lead scientist, had finally cracked their unbreakable encryption. "Beginning infiltration of Council Comgrid," reported team leader Da-Eun Kim, her fingers flying over holographic keyboards. "I'm in their primary data stream." The Council's own technology turned against them. Every secure message, every military order, every classified file suddenly became available to human intelligence. But more than that, the humans could now send false orders, redirect supply ships, and create confusion throughout the Council's territory. On HFY, Agent Haiwan had planted her devices in the planet's core. They weren't bombs in any normal sense. They were reality distortion generators, similar to the ones that had destroyed the Council fleet at Jupiter. When activated, they would make the entire world phase in and out of existence. The local authorities didn't understand what was happening when gravity started fluctuating randomly. Buildings would suddenly become weightless, then crash down with crushing force. The planet's ocean began behaving like it was made of solid crystal one moment, then liquid fire the next. "Evacuate the capital," the planetary governor screamed into his communicator. But the communication system was under human control now, and his orders were being redirected to pizza delivery services. Major Wan-Sik Lee led a strike team that had infiltrated the planet's government complex. They moved like ghosts through the building, their phase shift suits allowing them to walk through walls and ignore security systems. "Target acquired," Wan-Sik reported as they reached the main computer core. "Planting virus packages now." The virus was Dr. Xiong Min's latest creation. It didn't just destroy data, it made the computers forget they were supposed to be computers. Artificial intelligences that had run perfectly for centuries suddenly started believing they were houseplants or musical instruments. Across council space, the perfectly ordered civilization began falling apart. Supply ships carrying food arrived at military bases instead of colony worlds. Combat fleets received orders to paint themselves pink and perform ballet. Ancient automated defense platforms that had guarded council worlds for millennia suddenly started attacking their own cities. The 12 species of the council had worked together for 3,000 years, but they had always maintained separate cultures and interests. Human psychological warfare, directed by expert Sang-Wook Choi, exploited every fault line in their alliance. False messages began appearing on council communication networks. The crystalline Veltharians received proof that the aquatic Xantharans were planning to take over their territory. The insectoid warcast got evidence that the peaceful ethereals were secretly building weapons to destroy all non-energy-based life. "It's working perfectly," Sang-Wook reported to Intelligence Director Yoonji. "They're starting to suspect each other more than they suspect us." The Council's response to humanity's counterstrike was slow and confused. They had spent 3 millennia maintaining perfect order through rigid hierarchy and absolute obedience. When that system broke down, they had no backup plan. Fleet Marshal Zenthara tried to coordinate the defense of Council space, but half her orders never reached their destinations. The other half were replaced with instructions to surrender immediately or perform embarrassing dances. "How are the humans doing this?" she demanded of her intelligence chief. "We don't know," the officer replied. "They seem to have agents everywhere, weapons that shouldn't exist and technology that ignores basic physics. It's like they've been preparing for this war longer than we've known they existed." The truth was even worse than that. Humanity hadn't just been preparing for war with the Council. They had been preparing for war with any sufficiently advanced alien civilization. The discovery of the ancient derelict in the Kuiper Belt had taught them that the galaxy was full of species that could destroy Earth without effort. So they had decided to become something that nobody would dare destroy. Captain Yojin Han commanded a fleet that shouldn't have existed. Her ships were crewed by humans who had died in previous battles, their consciousness preserved in quantum matrices and downloaded into synthetic bodies. Death was no longer permanent for humanity's military forces. "All units begin Phase 3 operations," she ordered. Her fleet consisted of ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. When Council forces shot at them, the weapons passed through empty space while the ships remained perfectly solid. The Battle of Nexus Gate was the turning point. The Council had massed their remaining forces to protect their most important communication hub. Over 300 ships guarded the massive station, determined to stop humanity's advance. They never had a chance. Yojin's impossible fleet attacked from directions that didn't exist in normal space. Her quantum weapons hit targets before they were fired. Her gravity bombs created black holes that sucked enemy ships backward through time, and her reality distortion fields turned the vacuum of space into solid matter that crushed everything inside it. The legendary Council Admiral Thex Moran, hero of a dozen previous wars, tried to rally his forces. But when Yojin's psychic warfare specialist So Young Park focused her mind on him, his consciousness was scattered across 17 different dimensions. His body remained alive, but his mind was experiencing the battle from 17 different perspectives simultaneously. The Council's perfect unity was breaking apart like glass hitting stone. In the emergency session chamber, 12 species that had worked together for 3,000 years were now screaming at each other in languages that couldn't translate their rage. "This is your fault," screeched the insectoid warcast leader at the crystalline Veltharian. "Your arrogance brought this disaster upon us." Veltharian's body flashed with angry light. "My arrogance? You were the one who demanded total war. You wanted to use the planet crackers. The planet crackers that you approved." Mordak shot back, his metal claws scraping against the table. "And where are they now?" "The humans destroyed half of them before they could even be deployed." The aquatic Xanthara spoke from her water tank, her voice bubbling with despair. "My entire fleet is gone. 300 ships wiped out by weapons that shouldn't exist. How do you fight an enemy that can erase you from reality?" "Perhaps we should surrender," whispered an ethereal representative, its ghostly form flickering with fear. "Cut our losses before they destroy everything." "Surrender?" Mordek's red eyes blazed. To primitives? I would rather see the galaxy burn. But the galaxy was already starting to burn. Humanity's reality-warping weapons had damaged space itself in dozens of systems. Ancient trade routes that had been stable for millennia now twisted through impossible dimensions. Planets that had existed for billions of years were phasing in and out of existence. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Kyung-Ho Baek stood before a massive holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red zones marked areas where space-time had become unstable. Yellow zones showed Council territories under human attack. Blue zones were the remaining pockets of Council resistance. We're winning, he told President Mi Young, but at what cost? Mi Young studied the damage reports. 17 star systems were now uninhabitable due to reality distortions. Millions of aliens had died, not just soldiers but civilians caught in the chaos. The ancient order that had maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years was collapsing. Any word from the Council about surrender? She asked. Beltharian sent a message an hour ago, Intelligence Director Yoon-ji reported. He wants to negotiate terms. Terms? Mi Young laughed bitterly. They demanded our total surrender. Now they want to negotiate? Admiral Kyung-Ho activated another display, showing the current military situation. Our sleeper fleets have taken control of most Council territory. Their communications are down. Their supply lines are broken and their forces are fighting each other as much as they're fighting us. The human psychological warfare campaign was working perfectly. Expert Sang-Wook Choi had spent years studying the cultural tensions between Council species. Now those careful analyses were paying off as ancient rivalries resurfaced. The crystalline Veltharians had always looked down on the crude biological species. The aquatic Xenthorans resented being treated as second-class members despite their advanced technology. The peaceful Ethereals had never wanted to be part of a military alliance. The insectoid war caste believed they were the only species worthy of ruling. Human agents were feeding carefully crafted lies to each group, making them believe their supposed allies were planning betrayal. Centuries of cooperation dissolved in days as suspicion and fear took hold. Captain Yojin Han's impossible fleet continued its advance through Council space. Her ships existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them nearly impossible to target or destroy. When Council forces did manage to hit them, the damage was instantly repaired by technology that reset time locally. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender requests from the Vegan Defense Fleet. Yojin considered this. The Vegans were one of the more reasonable Council species, known for their scientific achievements rather than military aggression. Accept their surrender. Take control of their ships but don't harm the crews. The human fleet had learned to distinguish between willing enemies and forced participants. Many Council species had joined the alliance for protection, not conquest. Humanity was offering them a choice: surrender and live, or fight and face erasure from reality. On SciFiPrime, the Council's capital world, reality storms were tearing the planet apart. Agent Haiwon Park's devices had turned the world into a nightmare, where the laws of physics changed randomly. Buildings floated in the air one moment, then sank into the ground the next. The ocean turned to crystal, then to fire, then to pure energy. Evacuate the planet, the planetary governor screamed, but his orders were still being redirected by human hackers. Instead of evacuation ships, he got delivery trucks full of party supplies. Major Won-Sik Lee's strike team had taken control of the planet's main government complex. They moved like ghosts through the building, their phase shift technology allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Package delivered, Won-Sik reported as he planted the final reality distortion device. SciFiPrime is now uninhabitable. The Council government will have to relocate. But there was nowhere for them to go. Every major Council world was under attack by human forces that seemed to multiply rather than diminish. For every human ship destroyed, 2 more appeared to take its place. For every human agent captured, 3 more revealed themselves. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this war much longer than the Council realized. The ancient derelict found in the Kuiper Belt hadn't just provided technology. It had provided a warning. The galaxy was full of advanced civilizations that would one day try to destroy or enslave humanity. So humans had prepared for that day. Dr. Sungmin Han's reality warping technology was just the beginning. Hidden research facilities had spent decades developing weapons and defenses that violated every known law of physics. Quantum consciousness transfer allowed dead humans to keep fighting in synthetic bodies. Time manipulation let human forces attack before their enemies knew a battle had started. But the most devastating weapon was humanity's complete unpredictability. The Council had spent 3,000 years fighting wars according to ancient rules and traditions. Humans didn't follow any rules except winning. Council Admiral Thex Moran had been the greatest military mind of his generation, but his consciousness was now scattered across multiple dimensions. He experienced every moment of the war from 17 different perspectives, watching his forces lose the same battles over and over again. The legendary Warcast General Krixthok tried to rally his troops for a final assault on the human home system. But when he gave the order to attack, his ships received instructions to perform synchronized swimming routines instead. The human hackers had turned his own communication system into a comedy show. "How are they doing this?" he screamed at his intelligence officer. "How do they know everything we're going to do before we do it?" The answer was simple but impossible to accept. Humanity had agents everywhere, weapons that shouldn't exist, and a willingness to break reality itself to achieve victory. They had turned the Council's greatest strengths into weaknesses. The Council's perfect organization became chaos when their communication systems were compromised. Their ancient wisdom became ignorance when faced with impossible technology. Their unified military became a confused mob when psychological warfare exploited their cultural differences. On the border world of Xerion, the last major Council fleet made its final stand. 300 ships under the command of Fleet Marshal Zenthara faced off against Admiral Inho Kang's human task force. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the space around Xerion was filled with twisted metal and reality distortions that would persist for centuries. Zenthara's flagship had been turned inside out by a weapon that attacked the concept of outside itself. Council Speaker Veltharion sat alone in his emergency bunker, watching his 3,000-year civilization collapse in real time. The reports coming in were increasingly desperate and confused. Reality storms were spreading across the galaxy. Ancient star charts no longer matched the actual positions of stars. Some planets had been erased from existence so completely that even the memory of them was fading. "Sir," his aide whispered, "there's a communication from the human president." Beltharion's crystalline form flickered with exhaustion. "Put it through." President Mi Young's image appeared on the screen. She looked tired but determined. Behind her, Beltharion could see the flags of dozens of human colonies, representing all the people he had tried to force back to Earth. "Council Speaker," Mi Young said formally, "I believe you wanted to discuss surrender terms." Beltharion felt his pride crumble like ancient stone. "What are your demands?" "Complete dissolution of the Galactic Council as a governing body, withdrawal of all military forces to your home systems, reparations for the attack on human territory, and recognition of humanity's right to exist freely in this galaxy. And if we refuse?" Mi Young's expression hardened. "Then we continue this war until every Council world is uninhabitable, and every Council fleet is erased from existence. We hope for peace, Council Speaker. You chose war. Now you'll live with the consequences." Veltharion looked around at his empty bunker, at the reports of devastation covering his screens, at the 3,000 years of peace and order crashing down around him. He thought of the primitive humans who had stood before the Council just days ago, asking for friendship. The surrender ceremony took place on Haven Station, a neutral trading post floating in the empty space between star systems. Ambassador Sujin Lee walked through corridors filled with beings from dozens of species, many of whom had never seen each other before the Council's rigid rules were broken. The main conference room was smaller than the Grand Council chamber where this all began, but somehow it felt more important. At one end sat the remaining Council representatives, their once proud forms now diminished by defeat. At the other end, humanity's delegation prepared to reshape the galaxy. Council Speaker Veltharion looked different now. The crystalline being's light was dim, flickering like a dying star. When he spoke, his musical voice was barely a whisper. "The Galactic Council formally surrenders all military forces and dissolves its governmental authority," he said, each word seeming to cause him pain. "We accept humanity's terms without condition," Sujin nodded solemnly. She took no joy in their defeat. "The transition will be supervised by joint committees. No species will be left without support, but none will be allowed to dominate others. The formal documents were signed using technology from 12 different worlds. Some signatures were made with light, others with sound, still others with patterns of thought itself. When the last name was recorded, 3,000 years of galactic history came to an end, but the real work was just beginning. Dr. Shungmin Han stood in his laboratory aboard the research vessel called Discovery, surrounded by quantum equations that hurt to look at directly. The reality-warping weapons had won the war, but they had also damaged the universe in ways that were only now becoming clear. "How bad is it?" asked Chief Engineer Jun Seo-yoon, studying readings that made no sense according to normal physics. 17 star systems have unstable spacetime, Dr. Shungmin replied. 3 more are showing signs of reality breakdown. If we don't fix this soon, the damage could spread across the entire galaxy. Teams of human scientists worked alongside former council researchers, sharing knowledge that had been kept secret for millennia. Dr. Hae-in Moon, a specialist in quantum mechanics, found herself working with a crystalline Veltharian mathematician who thought in 11 dimensions. "Your people's approach to physics is fascinating," the alien told her. "You ignore the rules and make new ones. We spent thousands of years perfecting elegant solutions. You create chaos and somehow make it work." Hae-in smiled. "Chaos is just order that you don't understand yet." The hardest part wasn't fixing the damaged space-time. The hardest part was convincing the galaxy species to work together without the Council's forced unity. For 3,000 years, rigid hierarchy had maintained peace. Now 12 different species had to learn how to cooperate as equals. Captain Hyeon-woo Park stood on the bridge of humanity's newest exploration vessel, the Pioneer. His crew was half human, half alien, exploring regions of space that had been forbidden under Council law for millennia. The ship itself was a marvel of combined technology, using human reality manipulation systems alongside alien computational power. "Captain," his alien science officer reported, "we're detecting artificial structures in the Andromeda approach vector. They appear to be very old." Hyeon-woo studied the sensor readings. "How old?" "Possibly millions of years. Much older than any known civilization." The galaxy was full of mysteries that the Council had ignored or suppressed. Ancient ruins, abandoned technologies, entire species that had been classified as non-existent for political reasons. Humanity's victory had opened doors that had been locked for millennia. On Earth, President Mi-young walked through the halls of the new Galactic Coordination Center. Unlike the Council's grand chamber with its high platforms and rigid seating, this facility was designed for equals. Representatives from dozens of species sat at the same level, discussing trade agreements and territorial disputes like civilized beings. "The Zerion border incident has been resolved," reported Ambassador Su Jin, who now served as humanity's first galactic coordinator. "The Zentharans and the Ethereals have agreed to share the mining rights." Mi-young nodded. These small disputes were actually progress. Under the Council system, such disagreements would have been settled by decree from above. Now they were settled through negotiation and compromise. But not everyone was happy with the new order. Captain Bo-ram-jang intercepted a coded transmission while patrolling the Outer Rim territories. The message was from a group calling itself the True Council, made up of species that wanted to restore the old system. "They're gathering forces near the Vega system," Bo-ram reported to her superiors. "Looks like they're planning some kind of counterstrike." The rebellion was put down quickly, not by human forces but by other alien species who had tasted freedom and didn't want to give it up. The crystalline Veltharians, once the Council's most loyal supporters, helped capture the rebel leaders. 3,000 years of peace, former Council Speaker Veltharian told Su-jin during the trials. "That's what we gave the galaxy: order, stability, predictability." "But at what cost?" Su-jin asked. "How many species were kept primitive to maintain your stability? How many discoveries were suppressed to preserve your order?" Veltharian was silent for a long time. Finally, his crystalline form flickered with something that might have been understanding. Perhaps change is not always destruction. The new galaxy was chaotic, messy, and sometimes dangerous. Trade wars replaced shooting wars. Diplomatic crises substituted for genocidal campaigns. Border disputes were settled by negotiation rather than decree. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive in ways that the Council's sterile peace had never been. Major Wonsik. Lee established the first multi-species military academy on the world of New Haven. Human officers learned alien tactical systems, while alien cadets studied human unpredictability. The goal wasn't to create another galactic empire, but to ensure that no single species could dominate others again. The key to human warfare, Wonsick taught his mixed classes, is that there are no keys. Every battle is different. Every enemy requires a new approach. The moment you become predictable, you've already lost. A young ethereal cadet raised what might have been a hand. But how do you plan without predictability? Wonsick smiled. You don't plan for what will happen. You plan for what might happen, what could happen, and what absolutely should never happen but probably will anyway. The real test of the new order came when long-range sensors detected something approaching from beyond the galactic rim. A fleet of ships using technology that made even human reality-warping weapons look primitive. They sent a single message in a language that took months to translate. We are the Andromeda Council. We have heard of the primitives who dared to challenge galactic order. Prepare for judgment. The message reached every inhabited world simultaneously, bypassing all known communication systems. It was a demonstration of power that made the old Galactic Council look like children playing with toys. President Mi Young convened an emergency session of the new Galactic Assembly. Representatives from 50 species gathered to discuss humanity's greatest challenge yet. The being that had once demanded humanity's surrender was now asking for their protection. The Andromeda Council makes our old alliance look weak, Veltharion admitted. They have technology we can barely understand. Resources that dwarf anything in our galaxy and a history of conquest spanning millions of years. So what do you suggest? Mi Young asked. War, said the former Warcast leader Mordak, his insectoid form clicking with anticipation. But not the kind of war we know. A war that uses every advantage we have. Admiral In-Ho Kang studied the sensor readings from the approaching fleet. They'll expect us to follow traditional battle doctrine. Organized fleets, conventional weapons, predictable tactics. Then we'll give them exactly what they don't expect, Mi Young decided. A galaxy united not by force but by choice. 50 species working together, each contributing their unique strengths to a common defense. The preparations began immediately. Human reality warping technology was combined with alien computational power. Crystalline mathematics were merged with aquatic fluid dynamics. Ethereal energy manipulation was paired with insectoid swarm tactics. For the first time in galactic history, different species were truly working as equals. Dr. Wu Jin Kang led a research team that included beings from 20 different worlds. They were developing weapons that combined the impossible with the elegant, the chaotic with the ordered. The results violated every known law of physics while somehow being more stable than anything either side had created alone. The beautiful thing about impossible technology, Dr. Xiongmin had once said, is that it's impossible to defend against. Now they were learning that impossible technology combined with alien precision became something entirely new. Captain Haiyan Wu received his orders while exploring an ancient ruin near the galactic core. The pioneer was to return immediately to join the defense fleet. But as his ship turned toward home, his alien science officer made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, these ruins contain star maps that show the Andromeda galaxy from millions of years ago. According to this data, the Andromeda Council isn't native to that galaxy either. They're refugees from somewhere else.